Hi, my name's Taylor and I'm 17 and here is my story. Okay, so here's what happened. It was a night that neither I nor my neighbors will ever forget. I never felt so mortified in my entire life. Earlier this year, my next door neighbors asked if I could babysit their 3 kids while they went out for dinner with friends on a Friday night. This family is super religious, the parents are really nice, and the kids were mostly well behaved when I babysat in the past. Plus, they paid really well and I needed money for Christmas, which was only 2 weeks away. That night was especially sweet. I arrived at 8 and one of the kids was already asleep. I figured I would spend a good chunk of the night watching Disney movies and doing homework on the couch with the kids. The parents rushed out of the house and said they would be back around 11. I sat down with their 6 and 8-year-old to watch movies. We looked through Netflix for a while and they could not agree on what to watch. Fine. We went into their parents' room to search through the movie collection of DVDs. We went through the usual Disney collection and assorted kid movies, and they finally agreed on Bambi, which I've seen a million times, but whatever. We walked back downstairs with the movie case, and I asked one of them to pop it in. Immediately, a rather elaborate 3-way is going on with a guy whose thing is so big, I was amazed. It looked like a girl was getting stabbed by a harpoon. I knew right away this wasn't the version of Bambi I remembered. I was sort of stunned at first, and then I screamed, "No!" I looked around the room for the remote to turn it off. I finally threw my whole body in front of the TV and pulled the plug from the wall. The picture stopped, but the DVD player was still on, which was connected to the stereo, and the cheesy music and moaning became the soundtrack to my nightmares. I turned around. The look of shock and bewilderment on their faces is something I will never forget. Great. I just scarred them for life. We went back upstairs and found the real movie in another case. I removed their parents' special DVD and placed it on the top of the entertainment center, a mistake I would later regret. We started the real movie and settled in on the couch. After my head stopped spinning several hours later, I heard a noise upstairs and decided to investigate if the 4-year-old boy has woken up. The younger kid dozed off on the couch right next to me, and the older one was on her iPad playing a game, and I figured they would be fine. As soon as I got to the top of the stairway, I noticed that the light was on in his room. I peeked inside and he was not there. Uh-oh. Farther down the hallway, I noticed that the light was on in their office. I made my way to the doorway and stood there in horror. He had gotten into the desk and found some super glue. For reasons I still haven't figured out to this day, he was wearing a Santa costume. He had on the red jacket, pants, and hat. I have to admit, it was sort of cute. I thought to myself, thankfully I got here before he glued things together. He was lying face down on the floor and had the bottle of glue in his hand. I immediately went to grab it, but realized that the bottle was open and glued to his hand. I went to pick him up and he wouldn't budge. He'd glued both his shirt and pants to the carpet. I snaked his legs through his pants, and when I went to take off his hat to pull his arms through his shirt, I grabbed the hat and he screamed. The hat was glued to his head. I had to cut off the shirt with a pair of scissors. Just as my level of panic started to reach an all-time high, I heard their black Labrador retriever enter the room. He came up right beside me with his tail wagging. Did I mention he was wearing a Santa beard? Yep, you guessed it. It was also glued to his face. Within a couple of minutes, I heard the parents walk through the door downstairs. I grabbed the boy, complete with his glued hat, bottle stuck to his hand, and ran down the stairs with the bearded dog following closely behind me. Their parents and I both made our way to the living room at the same time. Apparently, the girl wanted to see more of their parents' special movie. I don't even want to mention what I saw on the screen. Her dad quickly ran over to the DVD player to shut it off. He looked both embarrassed and angry at the same time. Their parents had a totally unimpressed look on their faces. They did not appreciate my lapse in judgment and less than perfect babysitting skills. The mother grabbed the little boy from my arms and saw that the bottle of glue was stuck to his hand. I said in an apologetic voice while looking down at the ground, he glued his hat on too. She looked up at his head in disbelief. The dog walked into the kitchen and she said, "Why does our dog have on a beard?" After a few seconds passed, which felt like eternity, she said, "Let me guess. That's glued on too. I kept looking at the ground and nodded, my head in embarrassment. I offered to help fix what happened, but they quickly declined. When they handed me my money, I felt embarrassed taking it. I heard that they spent half the night cutting the boy's hair to remove the hat, removing the bottle from his hand and the dog's beard from his face. They had to bring the dog to the groomer and the boy to the barber afterward, because they were both missing chunks of their hair. I still have no idea how they got the clothes off of that rug. They never did ask me to babysit again. Want to send us your story and go down in Storymation Nation history? Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and smash that like button if you enjoyed the story.